All right, welcome everybody. It's 3 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. First item on our agenda is the conflicts of interest by any of the commissioners today.
None here. None here.
Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 2. That is to approve the consent agenda with the minutes and the ratifying the payment of bills. Anybody have anything on that?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Don, second by Tom. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Item 3 is to approve the financial statements.
I don't have too much, but I just thought I'd mention a couple differences. You'll notice both divisions were pretty good last month. You'll see the usage on the electric was up, but the revenue was down. That's in large part due to giving credits back of $384,000. So without those, that'd be a lot of extra revenue. I think I mentioned last month or the month before, this is the first time we've done credits that I can ever remember. My spreadsheet goes back about 19 years. The other thing was you'll also see the operating expense is a lot lower this year. That's because last year we paid $125,000 to the city of Hutchinson for that school road sewer project, if you remember that. So that's why that operating expense was much higher a year ago. That's all I have.
Just a couple other things to touch on. On the electric side, obviously with the credits that we've been given back, obviously the rate stabilization fund, we've touched on that. That's above the ceiling, so we're above the 1.2 million. I anticipate us giving back credits probably October and November as well. Kind of a little bit more of a minor credit, and then potentially drawing down a little bit of that money in the rate stabilization fund in December because our winter rates, wholesale rates, go into effect in December. And then looking forward into 2026, we're going to have some significant increases on power supply going into next year. Our wholesale costs are going up about 5.5%, and our transmission is significantly jumping up. So I'm anticipating, and you guys will start seeing budget stuff here in the next couple of weeks, we'll start drawing down our rate stabilization fund probably starting in January all the way through summer, and then we'll be back into power cost adjustments, probably looking towards the back half of 2026. The way I'm modeling the PCA right now, there's no month going into next year that's below our benchmark of $54 a megawatt because of increased costs on the wholesale side of things. And then obviously related to the credits, we just under 3.8 million in market sales this year. That's by far the largest we've ever had. And we've talked about that over the last couple of months. We just had high inflated market prices that were sustained for long periods of time in a lot of months. So we're generally not generating that type of market sales. I'm not predicting that in the 2026 budget, so you'll see there'll be a significant change from this year on that. As Jared mentioned, the power costs, the difference between, last year we charged $556,000 power costs year to date, and we've given back $384,000 in credits, so that's a change of just under $1 million in actually retail revenue. So you can see how that generally impacts. When we've increased our rates, you're typically looking to see that your retail rates, revenue that you're collecting has been increasing, but that's been offset by we're just generating revenue in other ways. And so a lot of that retail rate, based on those rates, hasn't been fully seen because we're giving back credits to offset that. So this year looks a little skewy because of the market sales and how it's impacting our rate stabilization fund models, but I don't anticipate that being a common occurrence to that, at least to that level of magnitude. And then on the gas side, things are looking pretty good on that side. Again, we had the same thing. We're giving back way more credits this year than we did last year, to a tune of a difference of almost $500,000 in more fuel cost credits going back. So those are all benefits to the customer because we're giving back, but it just doesn't look as great on our profit and loss statement when you're giving that amount of money back. Those may be conversation points we'll need to have, in those rate stabilization fund and those benchmark numbers as we talk about major projects, that are coming up. We may need to look at tweaking those rate stabilization fund benchmarks or doing something different or talking about rates as we move forward. So those will be conversation points we're going to have in some strategic planning conversations because there's some large things happening here in a condensed amount of time that we typically don't see. So we'll have to work through some of those things, but those are all positive things year to date. Cash position right now, we're just under 26 million. I did kind of allude to, we're starting to see large drawdowns on cash. Our project substation's in full force, so we're going to be spending, we anticipate another $3 to $4 million in the next month just on the project, and then we've got our debt service payments coming up in November, and that's $3 million. So November's going to probably see a large cash reduction, and then we're going to continually see large payments coming out through the remainder of this project. So the cash position looks good right now, but it's quickly going to erode here over the next 6 months, and we'll talk about that as we get together and talk about cash position as well on that. But overall, right now, it's sitting good in anticipation of larger payments coming out. Otherwise, everything was tracking the way I thought it would. Things are tracking well towards budget. Really no concerns there from that standpoint, so we're in a pretty good position. And then as I've touched on the last couple of months, when you look at the investment portfolio, you can see that we, again, purposely put liquidity towards the front end, so we've got $10 million just over that are liquid in the next year. And again, that's anticipation of having to pull money into our operating accounts to pay for large bills and things related to the project. So we'll keep a lot of that liquid until we get a better handle on kind of some of the timing on some of the final project payments on the substation. And then, as I alluded to in my notes, we're probably going to have some overlap on the Wilmer line coming new to that we didn't really anticipate, so we're going to have to sift through that. And I'll work on some cash flow, revising, modeling things, and put things in front of you guys so you can kind of wrap your arms around kind of where our cash flow is going to go. I do anticipate for that Wilmer line, we're going to have to bond for that project. That's a significantly more expensive project than we thought it was going to be, and I think the timing of how quickly that project's coming up related to this one, we're not going to build up enough cash reserves to pay for that project. So I anticipate having some timing with the city to work on bonding over the next 2 or 3 years. We may need to do some over multiple years based on the debt cap that the city has. So I'll work with staff and Andy on those down there to make sure that we're looking at those things as we move forward. They're all good projects, but we're going to have to find some other financing mechanisms for that project more than likely. But otherwise, year to date through the first 3 quarters, we're in good shape. We're looking really well compared to last year. So, any questions on any of the financial stuff or anything that you guys saw? You got any questions on or could clarify any items on?
Good to me.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial statements.
I'll second.
Motion by Kathy, second by Don. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Financial statements are approved. Item 4 is open forum. We have no new guests today, so we'll move on to item 5, communication. City Administrator.
Not a whole lot for you guys. A lot of private development going on right now. New apartments downtown. Sherwin-Williams on the south side of town. Planning Commission's approving plans for a 20-unit senior living facility off of Golf Course Road, and then looking at potentially 3 more apartments on the north side of town for next year. So staying busy in that realm of things. So a lot of housing, which is great.
All right, thanks, Matt. We'll move on to the divisions. What do we got here, Dan?
Yeah, Hutchinson project update just keeps moving along. Majority of the concrete foundations have been poured. The perimeter of the site is up now, the fencing, new fencing. I guess the next big milestone would be the control building, scheduled to be delivered 3 weeks from today on the new pad for that. And then now it'll be tearing down some of the old equipment and then erecting some of the new steel that you may see on the north side of the building back here. We've been collecting it the last couple months, and so that'll hopefully start moving towards the substation here this winter as they pick away at it. And then the transformer is scheduled to be here in February. Hasn't been delayed any further, but that'll be the next big material item. But move along.
All right, thank you.
Well, during our annual bore scope on Unit 1, the LM6000, GE found 2 cracked blades in the Stage 2 of the LPT, which forced us to put a tag on the unit. We've been working with GE on some options to get the unit repaired. Jeremy and I have a meeting with him tomorrow to go over those options. We've been pushing GE to help us get the unit back in service as soon as possible, so we can provide load support as needed during the Hutch substation upgrade, which is going on during this time as well. So it's not a great situation, but that's where we're at the moment. That's what I got.
Okay.
So when we find out more, we'll let you guys know.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of our concerns, obviously, it's out of service, so we can't use it to generate. It's the fall now, so market sales aren't as great over the next couple months anyway, so probably not a major issue, probably not a major financial impact where we're losing large amounts of potential profit on the market sales. The bigger piece, I think, for us right now is getting into the winter time. You know, sometimes generation is needed for market support, regional support sometimes. The other piece, as Mike alluded to, and Dan and Mike and I have talked about that, at some point through the substation project, they're gonna have to switch over and switch off some of the substation to swap things over, and during that time, GRE may ask us to run generation for load support in the region because they're taking down the transmission line to do the swap out. So that's our biggest concern is, are we gonna have that unit available, or do we have enough generation to support the region while the switchover is going over to the new substation? And if not, then that potentially could throw our project in kind of a loop, because GRE won't allow us to won't allow the switchover to happen if we don't have enough load, potentially generation to support load in the region. So we're trying to figure out maybe potentially what the timeline is of the substation project going on and how quickly we can get our generator unit 1 back up. Potentially we can use all the generators downtown and our old unit 9, but we don't run that one significantly a lot. We use that one more for capacity sales and things of that nature. And so we had to do a little bit this last year. We preferred not to use that one if we don't need to. But so that's kind of the timeline we're under, and maybe some of the constraint is, paralleling with the substation project and switching over transmission lines and things in the region. So hopefully we can find some viable options there. We're also looking at outside sources, outside of GE as well, to see what other options are out there and what type of timelines we're under for those things. And then, of course, the warranty plays into that, whether some of that's warranty covered or not covered, and things of that nature. So hopefully we'll find out more tomorrow.
All right.
Stay tuned.
Can't wait.
Gas division, we're just cleaning up some projects, loose ends before winter, before we get frost. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we had finished our Minnesota pipeline safety audit. Had a few concerns, but we don't anticipate anything major coming out of that, so went well, and we're waiting for them to give us a written final briefing, and we'll take it from there. So, other than that, nothing to report.
Nothing new for me.
Excuse me, human resources?
Continuing to work with our insurance broker on the PFML and figuring out which ancillary service we want to add with that, because the PFML company that we're looking to go with requires ancillary lines. And so we are looking at Hartford, they require one, so we're just looking at different LTD, short-term disability, even though we don't offer that, but then dental, vision, or something else to add to that, but we want to make sure that it works out to go with a lower percentage with the PFML by adding an ancillary fee. We're getting very close to that. It will be finalized by November 10th because that is our deadline. Working with other benefits too, with insurance, and I feel like we have a finalized number with that right now, so we're good with that, but then just with dental, what that rate's going to be as well. And then I'm looking to have a open enrollment meeting, hopefully mid-November, end of November. I know Thanksgiving is late this year, so figure that out, put that in there. We're gonna have a flu shot clinic coming up in the next couple of weeks. The city will be joining us with that. That'll be up here. And then we're just looking at Jeremy's review coming up in December. So discussion that you guys can have now, or we can talk about that in the November meeting, is will Jeremy's review be at our regular commission meeting? And if so, if it'll be open or closed. So in past years, we've always had it at the regular commission meeting afterwards, and it's been a closed review. So I don't know if that's something that you guys want to talk about right now and take motion on, set that, or if you want to do that in November when Troy's here as well. Thoughts?
I think we're all together for sure during the regular meeting, so it's best to include it then.
Yep.
And I believe it's up to Jeremy if it's open or closed. So.
And he makes that decision kind of at the beginning of that session, so.
Oh,
Because it's set as an open meeting, but he has to decide once that's convened whether he wants it to continue to be open or not.
So, my opinion would be to hold it
It's,
same day.
we've at least done it in the past many times, so we're all here.
It just depends what works for you guys' schedule, whatever works. Seems to be usually the most appropriate.
Mhm.
People already got it on their calendars.
Yep.
Okay. So you guys are okay with setting it for the regular commission meeting in December? Whatever date we so choose to have that later
Right.
down in our new business?
Yes.
Perfect.
To match that
Okay.
date. Yeah.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
All right, thanks, Angie. Legal? Mark?
Nothing today.
Mark, nothing? We'll go back to you, Jeremy.
As Angie mentioned, just trying to finalize all year-end stuff, trying to finalize all of our benefits, insurances, so that I can kind of finalize the numbers in our budget and get those things to you guys in the next couple of weeks. So working on budgets, working on the CapEx, be working on cash flow modeling with these projects. There's just a lot of that stuff going on. I did follow up with New Ulm on the contract that's been sent over to the city attorney for review. The point of contact that I've been dealing with at New Ulm, she's retiring here December 30th, so she's kind of moved that stuff on. So she gave me the second in command down there, Dave O'Brien, who I've worked with. That's over cast stuff, so he'll be in interim until they hire someone down there. They're hopefully in the posting's out there, and they're hoping to hire the position by mid-January is what's been relayed to me, so we'll see where that goes. So I don't know how quickly this contract will move forward or not, if they're gonna wait, or if it's basically with the city and the attorney and, we'll go back and forth, so. I just wanna make sure I've been communicating with those guys, so we're not dropping the ball on that and stuff, so. So that's kinda where that piece is at, but yeah, mostly just here on stuff, getting that stuff wrapped up, so.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 6, policies. There was 6 to review and looks like no changes this time. Item 7, unfinished business, we have none, so we'll move on to new business. Agenda item 8A is to approve the 2025 audit services with Conway, Duth, and Schmeezing. Thank you, Jared.
So, they quoted a 4% increase, which is $31,250. I included all the past amounts dating back to 2011, so you can see that. They can also be here early in the year, like they usually are, late January, so we can get it done quickly. So just asking you to approve the $31,250 for Conway, Duth, and Schmeezing.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to approve the audit services.
second.
Motion by Tom, second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda item 8A is approved. 8B is to approve requisition 010415, B-Minnesota Data Centers materials.
And I'll take this for Dave since he's out. So yeah, this is the requisition we're asking you guys to approve to start purchasing some of the equipment and materials for the potential energizing of the data center here sometime next year. So a couple of the pieces that we went out and quoted Wesco and went out and quoted Border States. Those are the two larger wholesalers with this type of specialized equipment for this type of load. And Wesco was the cheapest bid on their stuff. They use they both get quoted from Federal Pacific, and then depending on how they mark up for the manufacturer's piece, depends on who has the best pricing. So this time around, Wesco had the best pricing for the pieces of equipment that we need to purchase to start moving. There will be some other additional equipment and ancillary things that need to get purchased along the way, but these particular pieces have the longest lead times. So if you looked at some of the quotes, then they're looking at about a 9-month lead time on some of these things. So we're not anticipating getting this stuff till end of the summer next year, but the sooner we get this stuff moving, the sooner we can get on their books for that stuff, so. So we're looking for you guys to approve that, and then I just kind of gave you a little bit of, again, some additional, David put in here some of the little additional background of that section. So this customer is responsible for paying for all the upfront construction costs of the infrastructure to put that in, and then assuming that they become a good customer and they pay the bills on time, we'll reimburse portions of that over a 3-year period. So it's a way to keep them on the hook too for staying a customer long-term for us as well, so. And then not to exceed $250,000, as I talked with Dave, we think between this equipment that's being purchased on the pricing and some of the other stuff that we need to get, we'll be below the $250,000. So I don't think we'll run into any issues where those costs get above that, where that would be our responsibility. So I think we're in good shape from that standpoint. So we're just asking for you guys to approve the requisition to start creating POs and start purchasing the equipment.
Sounds good. Any questions on this?
So this project is a go? Is that a?
It's go from our standpoint. I know they've got the conditional use permit through the city, and I know last time I talked to him, it's been a few weeks since I've talked to him, he's been working on the civil engineering and the design work and the final prints that the city's gonna need from a planning and zoning standpoint. I haven't followed him recently because I think he's been working on that stuff. So, but from our standpoint, we've got all the stuff that we need to have completed on our end, and so he's moving forward. When I gave him our agreements after we approved this contract, his main focus was getting the stuff finalized for the city. Him and Dave have been talking a little bit on some of the equipment and materials, piece of it more the technical and the energizing components and what's going to be in their building. So as far as I know, this is still moving forward. So I'll touch base with him in another week or two and just kind of see how things are going on his end and if he's running into any issues. But usually he's pretty good about it. If he's running into a snafu or something that's creating some angst for him, he'll let us know that. So most of for him, no news is usually good news. It means he's moving forward on the stuff that he needs to get done to be in compliance with the city stuff. So, but once I follow up with him, I'll give you guys an update and kind of where he's at on stuff. But unless Matt, you know anything, I haven't heard anything. But
I haven't heard anything since they got their conditional use permit, but that doesn't mean that they're not working on things behind the scenes.
yeah, that's kind of what I think too. So.
All right. Thank you. You care to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve requisition 010415.
Motion by Don,
Second.
second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda item 8B is approved. Agenda item 8C is to approve setting a special budget workshop meeting.
I can take that one. Just talking with all of you guys and talking with Troy, we're looking at scheduling a special budget workshop prior to our regular commission meeting on November 26th. Normally, we only schedule 60 minutes, but we would like to schedule 90 minutes this time, so looking at 1:30 on Wednesday, November 26th.
I know that works for me.
Yeah,
That works.
works for me too. I'll make a motion to approve setting a special budget workshop meeting on November 26th at 1:30.
I'll second that.
Motion by Kathy, second by Tom. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 8D is approved.
Thank you.
Item 8E is discussion
Or that was
approval.
8C.
That was C.
Eight.
That was C. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
8C is approved. We'll move on to 8D. Approve rescheduling the December 31st, 2025 regular commission meeting if needed.
Yep, I'll take that one too. So talking with all of you guys and Troy, moving up the regular commission meeting from the 31st to the 17th also works for him as well, just with the holiday season and New Year's.
Mhm.
So if you guys are good with that, I'd look to see that be approved, please.
Good, yeah. I can make a motion to approve rescheduling December 31st to the 17th.
I'll second.
Motion by Tom, second by Don. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then that schedule 8D is approved. Item 8E is discussion and approval on the level of carbon-free / renewable power supply mix.
So, some of you that were on last year, and maybe you guys remember having this conversation last year. Every year, we're required through the Bright Energy Choices program that Missouri River Energy Services post for their members to really signify how many RECs, at least for us, potentially how many RECs do we want to buy to be carbon neutral or carbon free. Some, as we've talked about, some members have a high allocation of hydro, so a lot of members, Moorheads, most people to the west, they may be 80-90% carbon free already because of large amounts of hydro allocation they get from the federal government, from WAPA. Obviously, we're not fortunate, we're too far east, so we don't get any hydro allocation on that stuff. The deadline this year is November 1st to submit back to MRES what our preference is as far as how many RECs to buy moving forward. So I wanted to make sure I brought it in front of you guys today because it does have a budgetary impact. And so I want to just kind of run through some of the kind of different scenarios with you guys and have you guys look at the table. So when you look at the table, so when you look at the 2025 numbers, we started off this year with 34% carbon free. Most of that came from a portion that came from market purchases when they buy energy force off the market. A portion of that energy that they're buying off the market is carbon free as a percentage. And so that percentage plus last year they gave us 7% of nuclear allocation from one of the contracts that they're in on a nuclear plant. So between the nuclear and which was 7%, and the carbon-free this year was 27%. They gave us a 34% carbon-free makeup of our energy to start 2025 with. On top of that, last year the commission said we will buy an additional 45% of our forecasted load of RECs. So you can see that in the green bar. So between what was already part of our allocation from MRES and what the commission approved last year for the 2025 budget, an additional 45% of RECs, we ended up saying that we're at 79% carbon free in the community, and those RECs are at $1 a megawatt. So in our current 2025 budget, we have $122,591 budgeted to buy 45% of our forecasted volumes of RECs to essentially not only cover our regulatory compliance, which is 25%, but then also to go above and beyond that to kind of paint the picture that, hey, we want to be a little bit more progressive than the regulatory requirements and be carbon free. This year we're losing 9% to start off with because they're no longer providing us the nuclear free because with the change in guidelines in the market, they realize that those nuclear allocations they're getting from their contract are actually, they can sell those to their members at $1 to meet regulatory compliance. So what they gave us essentially free last year, they're no longer doing that. They're holding those attributes to meet mainly Minnesota's regulatory compliance. A lot of other states don't have the regulatory compliance carbon-free standards that we do. So we lost 7% to start with. And then 2025 market purchases, that portion of market purchase makeup only gave us 25% this year. So we lost 2% in the makeup of carbon-free coming from energy purchased off the market. So we're starting a little bit lower than what we did, so that gives you some just conversation points. So I laid out some different options. So if you look at the kind of the table up there, we're starting with 25% of our forecasted load, and our forecasted load for the program is up above in that yellow box. That's 268,360 megawatt hours is what they're forecasting our load next year. So they're giving us 25% of that load they're giving to us to meet the regulatory compliance that we're required to, and MRES on our behalf, because we're in the joint action agency, is required to meet those regulatory compliance thresholds for us. So they have to provide us that carbon-free portion from there. Then outside of that, the decision point for the commission is above regulatory compliance. What's the commission's appetite to buying more RECs for the community and our customers to essentially tell the story, or tell a story if you want, on how carbon free or carbon neutral we want to be in our community. So if we stayed with the same 45% that you guys approved last year, that would now put us at 70% carbon free for next year versus 79% this year, and it would be an annual cost of $120,762. So you'd have a little bit of savings in next year's budget from this year, but you're gonna lose 9% of carbon-free, because we're starting out 9% lower, essentially is what happens. If you say, hey, I wanna be, option number 4, I wanna stay at the same level of carbon-free or carbon neutral at the 79%, then you're buying 54% more RECs at a cost of $144,000, and that means that you're increasing the budget $22,000. If you just want to stay with regulatory compliance and have, some more minimal RECs, you can get down to 67,000 is meeting regulatory compliance, because we're going to have to have those RECs anyway. So there's I just give you some different ranges based on maybe what the commission's appetite is to participate in the program. The other piece of the program is we have 4 customers that want to be 100% renewable. So whatever the commission doesn't purchase, they are paying the difference. So for example, we have a customer, so you guys have said, hey, we're going to buy 45% of our RECs are going to be renewable energy credits that we're going to buy. A customer that wants to be 100% renewable, then for every megawatt hour they use, they have to pay 55% of that to buy the additional RECs to make them 100% renewable. So for 4 of the customers, what you guys decide impacts how much more or less they're going to pay to be 100% renewable. The majority of our customers are okay being carbon-free. They don't have a actual renewable standard, but we do have 1 large customer, 2 large customers that are 100% in the renewable program. I think we've talked about it's in our industrial customers, and then we have some smaller, a couple small general customers. They've indicated to us they still are going to participate as 100% renewable. So we'll let them know after you guys decide where your participation level you guys are comfortable at. We'll let them know what they can expect for their cost to be 100% renewable, and then so they're ready to go for next year. And then as we've touched on, these renewable standards, if nothing changes at the legislature, the next big bump up will be 2030, where then we're going to have to be at 60% carbon free, and then 2035 at 90%, and then 2040 at 100%. So we've got 26, 27, 28, 29, we'll only need to meet the 25% standard, and then 2030 bumps up. So those are just things to keep in mind. If things change at the legislature, that would affect these things, but there hasn't been any real significant conversation point at the legislature of tweaking the percentages significantly. The one thing that I've heard at most recently through the last legislative session was in 2040, potentially maybe not the 100%, maybe it just gets capped at 90, because they're feeling the push of getting to 100% renewable or carbon free in the state with load growth going on in data centers just probably isn't feasible. So I could see them lowering the final cap, but I do think they're going to try to keep in some progression of percentage of carbon free sources and renewables. So just kind of some background.
So as we get closer to 2040, I would imagine our rec rate will increase, right?
That's kind of a variable. I anticipate they're going to be going up before that, because $1 megawatt isn't going to be sustainable, because there's not enough renewables coming on, large enough projects to generate the amount of potential RECs needed. Certainly if we're one of the only states up in this region that are meeting standards, that have to meet standards, that helps the situation because there won't be as much market demand for it.
Sure.
Some of the states have backed off. They've looked to put those in. They've said, nope, we're not. They went backwards, or they've had a standard in place and they've pulled it up, because what their legislature is saying is we care more about reliability and servicing the load than we do about trying to put in renewables or portions of generation that just can't meet the load requirement. So I think Iowa, they had backed off a little bit. North Dakota, South Dakota, they've looked at some of that and they've backed off. So the only state right now that's an MRES member around this region is Minnesota, still has that standard. So that will play into it, depending on how many states move that direction. I'm anticipating at some point they're probably going to go up, though, because there's only going to be so much of those up there. And that will be more of a decision point for you guys too. If they start becoming $2, $3, $4 RECs, that becomes a significantly different costs. You know, with the data center contract, we said, hey, anything over $2, you know, that needs to be, we need to sit down and have a conversation about whether you want to continually participate, not participate, cost share, because, you know, we're not going to look to front the brunt of paying those type of costs for the recs. Right now, they've got a pretty good source. The other piece that MRES does have now is the WAPA allocation that most of the members get. Up until this year, WAPA essentially told them, hey, you cannot resell the recs to anyone. Those recs need to be retired first by your utility. So if you don't need to meet them for carbon standards, or you don't need them, too bad, you get them, you can't do anything with them. WAPA has changed their tune now, so MRES members are getting WAPA allocation. They are signing new agreements with the federal government to essentially allow those WAPA allocations to be used by MRES for their members. So in states where they don't need to meet rec guidelines or meet regulations or standards, they're, you know, most practical purposes, they're gonna send those recs to MRES, and then MRES can use those abundance of recs from the WAPA allocations that members are getting. Some members that have WAPA are gonna keep those because they wanna say, hey, we like to be 80% carbon neutral or carbon free. So some members may not sell excess WAPA recs to MRES that can be used, but some, what I've been hearing from some of our peers, they are going to look to provide some of those recs that they're getting from the hydro to MRES, so that MRES can use those for members that need to meet regulatory compliance. So that will have a play into the cost structure of the recs coming from MRES based on what the members do with their WAPA allocation. But for 2026, they're still leaving the $1 a megawatt in place for the rate, so it keeps it more palatable. But it really comes on a comfort level of where the commission wants to be from a policy standpoint. And every utility is different. Some like high, some are low, some only want to meet the regulatory compliance, so there's not a, hey, everyone's doing this. It's really what each local entity wants to do and what their comfort level is.
Anybody want to share first?
Go ahead, Don.
I don't want to spend any more money than we did last year. I think we're far ahead of where we need to be. Just to pay an extra $22,000 because they changed the formula, it's maddening to me. Power's not any different. We're just moving the bar a little bit so people will spend more money, and I don't see any benefit to doing that. So that's where I sit. I would stay with the 45.
I think we were aggressive last year, if I
Yeah.
remember right.
Yeah. So
Yeah, there was a mix of where people wanted to be.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I mean, I don't know if this plays in your, I will tell you our electric division budget for next year doesn't look as nice as this year's budget either. So it's hard to tell you because I haven't got the budget numbers found, but that would give you some context to it, to maybe where your comfort level would be. But I can tell you it's not looking as good as this year's budget.
I mean, I think there's a lot to be said, even if we went down to the 60% level and said we're meeting the 2030 standards today, you're ahead of schedule. It's something to be proud of if that's something you want to do. But to increase this expense without a requirement to do so, I just don't see a reason to do that.
And maybe by 2030, we can convince them that our clean, dry, organic natural gas can be renewable.
Right.
Well, it's,
Organic, right?
there's just so much that can happen between now and then, you know, if there's a change in leadership. I mean, this could all massively change, right? I'm probably on an island by myself, but I think option one is the best option total. But that's just me, so I'm assuming that's not going to be the majority.
And that's the minimum, correct?
That is the minimum,
That just
which
needs to be
still,
done,
Yeah, it's our
it's
power doesn't change.
right,
It's just somebody else gets some money from us to say that it feels better.
right. I don't even know what a rec looks like.
It's
Is it a
dull
piece
this
of
road.
paper?
I'm on a piece of paper.
Is it?
Take a bit quick.
I mean, I
That's not
was
his-
hoping Troy was gonna be here too for this. I don't know if, you know,
I I guess I'm a little more frustrated with it than I was previously because the standards keep changing. What's useful and what's usable keeps changing, and not to our benefit. You know, the power world we know is challenging as it is to make sure that we have enough and that it's stable. And the unreasonable expectation that we'd actually have 100% renewable energy is kind of laughable right now. So.
This may be a dumb question, but I know we're, like, they're moving more towards nuclear anyway. How would that affect us in the future?
Depends if they want to share nuclear attributes with us or not. Again, MRS has nuclear in their portfolio. Again, last year, this year, 2025, they gave us it as just part of being a member, but there's value in those nuclear attributes now.
Now,
So
is that,
where they
are those carbon free or renewable? Or carbon free?
carbon free, and so now they can monetize that contract and sell those nuclear attributes to their members to meet regulatory compliance. If we wouldn't have to meet a regulatory compliance, they probably would just give us those again, but they know there's value that some utilities in certain states have to meet regulatory compliance issues and some don't. So now there's a value to members that maybe have no other way of getting RECs other than through their wholesale supplier. And again, same with the WAPA allocation with members that are in states where they don't have regulatory compliance standards. They decide these things do have monetary value for us, and we can sell them to MRES, and MRES can sell them to a member that needs them to meet regulations. So it's more of what people's good feel is about where they want to be locally from a community standpoint. Certainly, they've talked about slowing down nuclear. Again, we've had, they're slowing down baseload retirements because of load growth in areas. It's kind of been stagnant. 8-9 years where it's been minimal load growth, 0.5%, and now you're seeing large swings of load growth because of AI and technology advancements going on. And so what that does is it prompts federal agencies, state agencies to go, hey, we can't retire all this base load because load's coming on and we can't get enough renewables on fast enough through queues to put things in. And even when renewables go in, they're not dispatchable all the time. And so you're kind of at this intersection where something's got to give, and right now a lot of states are pulling away from the renewable standards in lieu of meeting reliability standards, meaning we got to service the load, and if we can't service load in our states, companies are going to go elsewhere,
Right.
or states can service their load. So you're getting regulatory renewable compliance standards confronting actual physical load growth and manufacturing growth that's supposed to be happening too with Terra and things of that nature. So
Yeah. The more we talk about it, the more I'm just.
I'm with you.
I think I'm with Matt. I think we go with what we have to do and don't go.
I mean, just to meet the standards. I don't know Troy super well, but I have a feeling he would feel the same way.
I shouldn't speak.
I can't speak for him, but
I guess from Jeremy's staff, is there any detrimental effect if we go back that direction with the customer base? Just anything we might be missing from this viewpoint?
no, I mean it's a philosophical. I don't know if you want to call it detriment, but it's the message that you guys want to put out there from a municipal utility in the energy world, and if there's some transition moving towards clean energy, you need to weigh that.
And
the message is
understood completely, but the mix of energy that's produced and used doesn't change regardless of the decision we make here today.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely doesn't.
It's just the dollars that get shuffled around from us to somebody else.
Correct.
But our message is still we're wanting to meet the standard.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to meet the standard, and in 2030, if we have to, then we're going to have another $130,000 expense compared to the minimum today.
Yeah.
But the power production, the power mix, and the power use doesn't change.
Yeah. These decisions aren't going to drive that.
Right.
They're thinking legislation will drive the change in mix.
Right.
The only other piece I would say from a customer standpoint is that we'll have an impact on the 4 customers' decision on staying 100% renewable, because if you're going from 45 to 25, they're going to have an additional 20% of RECs they're going to have to pick up.
Right.
But that's a decision that they have to make on their own, so.
Right.
Which I don't have a problem with,
Mm-hmm.
so,
Okay.
what about you?
No. So I'll make a motion that we go with option number one, meeting the minimum standards as they sit today.
Motion by Don,
Second.
second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8D is approved at HUC's option number 1.
Thank you.
Then item 9 is to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion
I'll
by
second.
Kathy, second by Don. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.